Well, in the last few weeks, soaring food prices have led to riots, panic buying, and also contributed to the shocking ouster of Tunisia's president, a North African country. Well, let's take a quick look at the numbers here just to give you some sense of the magnitude. We've seen corn over the last year, this is in the futures market, up 54%, wheat up 33%, soybeans up almost 50%. And with us now to talk about the growing problem of food shortages around the world is Yash Gupta, Dean of the Johns Hopkins Carey Business School. Very nice to meet you. Thanks so much for joining us here live. What are some of the contributing factors to the present food shortage? It's not just one factor behind all of this.
There are many factors. One of the factors, of course, is the growing population. If you look at it this way, we've been adding about 80 million people every year. That's about 219,000 people every day. Every evening, there is 219,000 extra people on the dinner dining table.
And the bulk of that happening in Asia, or is
the bulk of that indeed is in Asia, Sub-Sahara, Latin America. So that's one factor, of course. The second factor is the affluence. So as we see, China and India, Brazil has become affluent, the consumption of food goes up.
Yeah, we were just talking about 9.8% GDP in China last quarter. I mean, there's also been quite a bit of, we've had a number of natural disasters that we've been talking about here. We saw incredible flooding in Australia, you know, in Russia. They had a very, very bad summer for their harvest.
And the third factor, I think it is equally important, is our insatiable need for fuel. So as a result, we have been converting corn and grain into fuel, biofuels. And last year, the United States had earmarked 38% of the production of grain for biofuels. And that's equivalent to about 400 million people fed for one full year.
That is amazing, and probably a consequence that wasn't necessarily factored in when we started getting excited about the ethanol industry. Well, let me ask you a question as to how we solve this, but before I get to that, I just want to talk, you know, I read this very interesting Wall Street Journal article that was highlighting sort of the rising food prices, and here's a quote from the article. It says, some grain analysts say that U.S. farmers need to plant an additional 8 million acres this year to bring supplies back to more comfortable levels, but it is far from clear where so much land would come from, right? And we talked about this during the break. Some countries are actually farming using other countries to farm, but at some point we run out of space.
We have, as a matter of fact, in terms of total amount of arable land that we've been in the world, it's part of the same it was many, many years. So we haven't added much of land by virtue of for agricultural purposes. And there is not much land to be had. As a matter of fact, if anything, land is shrinking. One, of course, is as we add more automobiles. Let's suppose, for example, India and China will add about 1 billion automobiles within the next 40 years. And every 5 million automobiles that we add, it requires 1 million acres of land to accommodate them.
Well, Dr. Gupta, unfortunately we have to end there, but I do know this at least is on the radar screen of many world heads. I know the World Economic Forum is watching this closely and likely to be discussing it in Davos next week. We would love to have you back and talk about this a little bit more. Unfortunately, we have to end here today. Thanks so much.
Thank you very much.
Dean Gupta, for joining us here.